You can, I can do that. It'd be, yeah, one of them. No, I don't think so. Okay, okay. But I'll be okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. If you want, you can take this and, just walk there. Not what I I thought I was going to be at 11 o'clock, but I didn't. Yeah, I have to. I got all kinds of gadgets because I said I'm too old to be falling. Yes, ma'am.
Over the bank up, all
Are you by yourself?
Yes. Because my children got so much to do that one of my daughters
he's there for hard arm. But he ain't been looking in the corner of the wall. Like, he's like, yo, I don't want to make him mad. This dude is awesome. The overlanders play the games all night. I still don't know which one their names. I always mess their names up. Good. Yeah.
Melvin and Dale.
No, Melvin and Carl.
Marlon.
But I don't know which one is which.
Marlon and
Carl.
Carl.
Yeah.
How do you feel, y'all? I know y'all feel y'all.
That's what I'm saying. I think of me, you know, I'm WC. Yeah, I'm gonna get drinking.
I know y'all used to do all the stuff with 36 on bras and stuff. Did y'all switch up on?
Oh, that's terrible. Hey, y'all ever done a little stuff? Yeah, man, I don't do.
No, I'm gonna take a picture and send it
So
to
this
you.
one I'm trying to get my fair.
Yeah.
And they say it's about cheap over there.
Hibbler, man, I don't know if you know Hibbler. You know Jerry Hibbler? He's just down there now.
Yeah.
He say you can be a real good for 500. That's everything.
She calls you man.
Yeah.
I was like,
And he told you, I
told me and something. It was that one year. She said, I call her
I wanna go to Kenya. They know.
But see, what they do is they be showing the bad part after. They don't show the. No, they can't see the big part.
biggest. But you see it on the map, it looks like
You
it's
gonna
small.
be sitting there, or you gonna sit up here with me?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna ask you, where you gonna be sitting up here with me?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah, if you can move that chair, cause I think
When you get there.
Oh, okay, can we move that to the middle, whichever one you
I
want?
would live there,
Either
but I
send
can't go there.
Well,
I wanna see the pyramid.
well, we need to put, I'll things to put them away, because can I sit while I do?
Right, you just see it there.
And that's what.
I don't think so.
No.
Now, if somebody can get that somewhere else. Cause I see, I have to have two hands to get up.
And then rock.
I was finished calling.
Pyramid still was. Yeah.
Yeah, now, I need those.
One, two, three, test, test, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Server today, Miss Eleanor, she's, member of my church.
Downtown Hopkins Park.
No, what is it?
1, 2, 3, testing.
Now, on the
Well, Pembroke and Hopkins Park, kind of the same, one is the village, one is the council.
1, 2, 3,
It's almost the
testing.
same
1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing.
school at first name,
Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing.
Mass
1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2. 3, 2, 1. 0.
And it has space there, 3,000. Like 6, 7, 8 days. Because of the
Tell me how far she has to drive.
What is she doing now?
think about the audience, Mom? Yes, sir. Hey, hello. How you doing? Good, how are you?
You know anything about, you know anything about Mark?
Only by name.
Okay. You ever been out there?
This is probably one of the few times I heard of it in the conversation.
Yeah. I like the area. And I've been trying to learn how to play alto sax for about the last 2-3 years. I can play Amazing Grace on Happy Birthday.
But that's why I gave it a beat. As far as they did the right shit. What up, sir? How you doing? Yes, it is. How you doing? What you keep your speakers one time? Renee.
He's an amateur comedian. Amateur comedian. Yeah. Oh, man. It's like hotel.
I haven't seen it since then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh man, the weather. I take pictures. Yeah, I had this special meeting with the lady.
Is that right?
No, ma'am.
All right, man. Good to see you. All right, man. Feel like old times. Feel like traveling.
Do we have sugar? The men set it up. That's green.
That's sugar, right?
Because they set it up, I didn't get it So he went out there and said,
She had some shit crazy times, y'all.
see, he got all these amateur meetings.
You gotta put your band.
Close it.
And then we're ready to start.
I worked in supply.
With a handful of people, you
76 Victor when I went in, when I got out of the back. 76. Yeah. Dr. Porter, this is.
They said, Christmas and English spring.
Probably
The
a-
word down showed us something already had. So it was broke. So, but then we need. And I had to complain about stuff,
Oh, man, this one, Dr. Porter.
No, that's part of what you.
No, I just, like, told my years.
Yeah.
books for you, I guess.
I mean, that's what they didn't test you. They just wanna test you. They just No, that don't do it. They got you on a little program, and you go to sleep.
17 testing, 1, 2, 3.
Praise for it.
Yeah. Fred.
My cousin said.
all that you have done and all that you're going to do. We ask, oh God, that you would grace your people here. The end result might be that we may be inspired and that we may even grow even closer together. We thank you so much. The psalmist said that this is the day that you have made. We rejoice in that we are here, that we're breathing, that we can see everything, the beauty of your creation. Bless this gathering, we ask. In the most sacred and mighty name of Jesus, we ask. Amen.
Amen.
Now we'll have a welcome by Commander Terry, and after which we will have music by Marius Bay, and then we'll have Dr. Porter who will introduce the speaker, Dr. Connie Edwards.
Good afternoon to the Pembroke community. And first I'd like to say thank you, Ms. Constance Edwards, for attending and tolerating us. But it's an honor to have you here. I think of my mother when I see elders. And you carry that spirit of a soldier that I see to this day. That being said, I just want everyone to enjoy this abbreviated luncheon. And it's about the spirit. So we're gonna feed our spiritual nourishment today. So with that being said, I don't have anything more to say outside of thank the NABVETS community and all of the members and supporters. This is the 14th year. And you don't get 14 years doing nothing. And hopefully we're going to take this thing to even higher heights. So with that being said, I've said more than I should have. I will turn this mic over to the MC.
Now let's give a round of applause as Mr. Bay would give us a rendition of some songs.
Warriors for those, rendition he did.
Yes, sir.
I kind of expect one of his super classical rendition that he wrote, but he played a little boogie there, so and that was all right too. Watermelon, that was fine. So anyway, I like to say that I'm so happy to see all of you here, and no excuse for all those who promise they will be, and they just still might have. Many of them working on different time frames. At this time, we're gonna move right ahead. We got food that's still trying to get warm. I'd like to introduce our speaker. But let me say this before I introduce her. I have reached out to many of my Vietnam friends and comrades and buddies across the land and told them what I was doing today. And they really, we stay in touch through social media. And my friend out in California, when he read the flyer, he said, "Can I send some money?" I said, "Well, that's what it's all about." He said, "Hold on a second." So he goes through his file. I found the address. It's in the mail. So we still collecting a few dollars. This is the commander's luncheon. And the commander, we have 5 commanders now. We have 2 here. Past Commander Robinson and myself. We have 2 discussion commanders for twice. 2 terms. No, 2 different terms, not just continual, but 2 different terms. Yeah. And our current commander, we are so proud of him. He just said something that I want to remind him of. That he said we're going to take this to higher height. He said it's going higher than this. And I thought Conrad had it higher than gold. You know, when I got it, I want to make it a little higher.
Yes, sir.
It's a job, but we can do it.
It's called progress. Progress. Yes,
But
sir.
listen, one thing is certain. I know I can speak for Conrad a little bit. He and I are behind him, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%. But, I was gonna read the letter and stuff he sent to me this morning, but I left it all at the gallery as a part of my repertoire. I left my money, tickets and everything, but they still good. Money doesn't rush too fast.
It don't.
So, anyway, our speaker today, is really I really call her a super person. I did not know her in Vietnam, but we served close to the same very place. But I got to know her at the Welcome Home Parade. That's when I met her, really met her. And we worked closely together. And I just want to thank you for what you did for the parade. The mayor had sent out an announcement that double the police force, double the security, and bring in police from other states of Wisconsin, Michigan, because we might need it. You know, because all these crazy Vietnam veterans are coming to count. Yeah, that I have that on the record. I have a book too. And guess what? We were there for 4 days. And at the end of the 4 days, the only thing that was a mess was all that paper on the ground.
That's it.
There was not one incident in 4 days. And I can't say it now, but in my head, I had a number of how many people attended. It was the largest Vietnam veteran parade in American history. And it was headed by Dr. Edward, myself, and 3 other people. And 2 of those have passed away. And we still have, so we might get another parade. Also, I'm proud to say that I had just organized a group called the Black Vietnam Veterans. And it was 25 of us. And we put on a presentation at the parade. And I had met this guy from Africa who were a drummer. I had been to one of his presentations. But anyway, I asked him to come and march with us. And the drum was so big because granddaddy drum is big this table and had to have 6 men to carry it. One through the middle, through the end. And so his people didn't show up, his 6 people didn't show up. I know, which was kinda cool, but my people from Kankakee were there, we were there around numbers. Our uniform was so unique, 99% of the people were wearing camouflage, you know, and they looked good. And about 99% of my guys said they were not wearing that stuff. I mean, they wouldn't wear it, so we voted on wearing black 3-piece suits, a kangaroo black hat, and a red tie with a white shirt. Now that made that did this job. But guess what? Everybody noticed. Everybody knows. We look good. I got pictures, and one of the parade attendant made a book, and I have the book with just about everybody, you know, every entry in it. And the book, when Channel 9 recorded us coming, they talked about us, and like everybody did with the next group coming, they announced who they are and where they're from. They were just astounded. And when they saw all of us, 25 buses wearing light suits, and red ties, they thought we were going to the church, having a funeral. But it turned out really well. You know how brothers and sisters are. They see something going on, they like, they join in. So we had more people following us than just came off the sideline and joined us in the parade. Enjoyed it. That was 1986, and I still kind of remember a little bit of it. All of it. But she was the head behind it. She's going to tell us about her experience a little bit in Vietnam, her experience. Oh, and then after that, I got to know her at Pembroke State University, where she was a professor. And I was a student and professor. I did both. And then I lost contact with her for almost 20 years. And Facebook, thank you, Facebook.
Facebook is great.
Yes. And so we connected again. So today we are honored to have Dr. Edwards. She has traveled the world, and she has done a lot of things. She's a member of some military organization. She'll tell us about it. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's something really important. And she's been the, I think she calls herself vice president. Yeah.
I was.
You were? Oh, okay.
I'll tell you about that.
Okay. And I was, so impressive. And I guess the network has done a documentary on her, just all kinds of stuff. But I was told, and I'm a researcher still today. I'm talking too long, but I had to do it. The research, when I researched some of her background, some of the VA hospitals, they had different feelings about her. Because she went in the hospital and she raised holy. Because she was an advocate for women's rights, which was needed back then. The woman who had the surgery she was on the same ward as me. Not now. Help me welcome Dr. Constance Edwards, our speaker for today. And
Well, your Dr. Porter was supposed to tell me what your audience was going to be, but I hadn't got that yet. So I wasn't sure whether we were going to be having non-vets, people who had never been in, children, or whatever. So I thought one of the things that I thought about was I knew he was a Vietnam veteran. And for one of the reasons that I chose to talk about my journey going through the military and Vietnam, because for whatever reason that a lot of people don't know even today, I think it was the Vietnam veterans that turned this country around in terms of how they respect veterans. And I'm not sure, I even asked him how much time did I have. I didn't know whether I had 5 minutes, 15, or whatever, but he said, limited. But I'm not so sure about that part. But anyway, what I was gonna talk about was well, not exactly talk about it, I'll give you my history. Because what I find is that my history does not match up with a lot of the history of people who are now in the military and who are now coming out. Lynn made this parade sounds like it was the greatest thing going. But when you see a baseball team, they win on Friday, they have a parade on Monday. We started in 1984 and culminated on June 6, 1986. But before I go there, how many of you were at that parade? Okay, that's another reason why I wanted to say something, and it might be a little disjointed too, that a lot of Vietnam veterans did not go there. And a part of the reason was they didn't go, and I still have people fighting over it. The way they treated us when we came back to America, they just absolutely refused. Some of the people who did come there didn't plan on coming. I was one of the co-chairs. I didn't even know why they invited me to this group because I was still in the reserves. And when I was in the reserves, you were in uniform. You had to wear the uniform. But at that time, I came to Chicago in 1970. I still had to take off my uniform to keep people from saying nasty things to me. I was called baby killer. I was called just about every name you could think of. I was accused of keeping the war going. But the worst part about it, when my daughter was in preschool, one of her classmates' dad says, I had gone to their school as a nurse. They had plenty of nurses, among the parents were nurses. So I said, well, I would go in as a military nurse and combat nurse. So I took my little skeleton, we're from Governor State, and I was showing the kids this is what body looks like underneath. And I'd seen everything from the outside to the inside, but sometimes this is what was left. But I also wore my, at that time it was camouflage, but I came through a period when it was not camouflage.
Straight green.
It was olive drab.
Kinda cute. Yeah.
And so, CJ, I still remember that name. My daughter came home crying. She says, CJ's dad said, you're a big old liar. You said you were in Vietnam. He said there was no women in Vietnam. And I thought, oh. So I called up the principal of the preschool and I said, well, did you hear that? She says, yes, but I tried to, calm her down before she went home, but she was just crying. And so I said, well, is CJ's dad, does he pick him up? She says, yeah, and I was working at the university then. So by that time, I was a little bit free. I didn't have to punch a clock like a lot of people did. So I could go, I stay up all night to prepare the lecture, but then in the daytime, I could leave because they tell you can go and do your grocery shopping if you have to, because when you got that 8:30 class on the next day, you better be ready to not be late. So I figured, well, okay, if I belong to them 24 hours a day, then I will do what I want to do. So I took off and I went to visit CJ's, to be there when he got there. I took all of my little military stuff with me. And I said, I understand you said they didn't have any American women in Vietnam when you were there. I looked at him because he was there, 1967, 1968, same time I was. So I said, well, I think maybe you must have been one of those people that had a cushy job in an air-conditioned office. Because everybody who saw the American women, they either was sick or they were hurt. And half of them didn't have no butt because they were trying to run from the enemy, so they shot off all the muscle off of the butt. So he and I got to be friends for a while. because he understood. I said, the reason that's why you didn't see round eyes.
Mm.
And so I said, the reason you didn't, that was your reason for it. But there was plenty people out there who were in a war, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see them. And so, because some people, I was reading a book that came out, I just picked it up this week, but I got the book back in 1985, when some of the nurses talked about what it was their experience it was called A Piece of My Heart. And basically that's what we did. We gave a piece of our heart. I was 23 when I went in. So when I look around at these 40-year-olds now, I thought I was real mature, wasn't I? Because these kids now at 23, I don't think they're ready to be 23. And some of the 40s, they still talk like they way back young or something. But anyway, at 23, I was responsible for a lot of mothers, sons, husbands, daddies, and everything else. And I had about 20 people that I was responsible, whether they did what they had to do or not. And I would just tell you a little bit of my background that made me be who I am. And I guess sometimes it's just coming to me now that I have to tell people. One of the things I was told, that once a soldier, always a soldier, and once a nurse, always a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all stop messing with me when I start acting like I'm a soldier. You act like you in the army, you giving orders like you were. I said, well, if that's what I did for 32 years, do you think that it's supposed to disappear? And so, but I thought, a lot of people, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, so that's another part of my story. I grew up in Birmingham. Now, if you all see, I'm as old as that man, so 80 years ago, you know, that's a while back. But I was born in Birmingham, what they call this person, Jim Crow. And I asked Lynn about who his audience was going to be so I could clean it up if I had to.
Yeah.
But I was born colored. I became a Negro. Then sometime after I got in school, I was black. Now they call us African American. And I said, but where I come from, you just one of them niggas. Because that's it. And I can just remember so clearly that my first time going out downtown in the public, you see this bathroom up there that says, well, the first thing you see this water fountain. You get a little thirsty in Birmingham, that was something dangerous. But it says colored water. We standing up there, got that thing pushed down, and we just watching everything coming out of there is clear. And we want to know why is it colored. And then when you get there, you look up at the bathroom, and it says colored women, white women. And so I went in the bathroom, I wanted to see what was going on in both of them, because I wanted to see, was it white? Because when people say it white, I had never seen a white person in my life. And so I kept trying to figure this stuff out. My parents were, I think my father made it to my mother made it to 7th grade, my father was 4th grade. So they would say things that you just never understood. So it wasn't that you go to talk to your parents and ask them, you know, decent questions. Most of the time they tell you, well, even if the grown people are talking the same stuff, they would tell you, get out, go play, this grown business. And so we didn't learn a whole lot. So by the time I got to Vietnam, I was pretty naive. And in fact, I'm not going to just tell you how I got in the military too. I started off, we were poor. I didn't know we were poor until I got to graduate school. And I was in a sociology class, and they were breaking down this middle class, low class, upper class, and all that other kind of stuff. And so I figured, okay, I was in the lowest class, and then that was called poverty. But where I come from, we had big yard, because I'm surprised that my grandparents had acres. One had 100, another one had 11. And so I'm looking at these people up here now, like my relatives. We are fighting like crazy for them to pay taxes. And their yard is about as big as this table here in Illinois, or they live in apartments and all this. And I'm thinking, do you all understand how our grandparents got acreages? And you all can't even come up, and the first time I had to pay the tax, because my daddy was paying both of them, and we didn't know what was going on. There was always this, it's just gonna happen. But I think one thing they had learned, that if you don't pay those taxes, white man gonna take that property. Because they know that y'all get a little slack when it comes to stuff like that. We inherit stuff, but we don't know what to do with it after we inherit it. And so so I spent a lot of time just telling people, we have to know where we came from, where you are right now, how to get here, what was going on there. And one thing in grade school we always learn is whenever you are confused about something, you ask who, what, when, where, and how. When you get all those answers there, you do it. But so many of them would just say, well, I don't like that. Why? They can't tell you why. And I'm just thinking, well, and right now we got an administration, y'all. They make decisions, but in the military, you don't make a decision till you get all the facts. And all this business about we're gonna fire this one first and fire that one other, and the first fired, no, last hired, first fired. We work with veterans organizations that are going out there pulling them from under the bridge. Find 25% of our veterans under the bridge. 25% of the homeless are veterans. We clean them up, get them a good job. Yeah, you're going to go at the bottom of the line if you just need money. We don't need, yeah, we know you had a master's degree. And something happened to you. We don't know what it was, but we'll figure that out later. But when they went there and hired, they got rid of the people at the top, and then they got rid of the people, the last hired, first fired. You have just now increased the homelessness rate. Because the people are out there because they don't have a home. Or some of them are out there because their families did not understand them when they were acting a little bit goofy. So they went away. They weren't all alcoholics when they started out there. But that's what happened. Some of them became that after they got out there. And when I was at the Hines Hospital, yes, I had to straighten out some people there. Because I would have some nurses up there. Oh, he's got all these scratches on him. He's just coming in here, you know, he's been shooting up. And I said, well, I don't think, where this man came off of Skid Row. Have you ever slept on concrete? He will be scratched up. These are not poke marks where he's done a needle. This is scratch mark where he's been laying on gravel and broken concrete and stuff like this. Oh, they just come in here for 6 hots in a cot. Now this is at the Veterans Hospital. I said, well, did you all ever understand that the reason you don't have to worry about your hot and cot is because that one came in here for you to take care of, and you get a paycheck.
All right.
Amen.
So I would have to really, and I'm still doing it. Last year, we buried one that the Veterans Hospital wanted to send away because he said he didn't belong there. Then when his ex-wife, I said, you live with the man for 20 years. I only saw him because I was a relative. I said, I only saw him on summers and maybe a few minutes, and when you're out there getting the barbecue in the yard, you really didn't spend that much time. I said, but you there, you know what was going on. Basically, he had a brain injury. And it was, but the doctors wrote down, we put the shunt in because he had some fluid on his brain. Reason unknown. I tried to tell the doctor, I says, look, this is the reason. I mean, I don't know what the reason is, but I gave him a lot of things. He said, oh no, every time I say, oh no, that's not it, that's not it. I said, well, if you could say you don't know, most intelligent people, if I give you a suggestion, you go and try that one out. And when you run through and you come back and you give me a report, I tried this and we don't think it was that or whatever. And I ran this test and I ran that test.
Right.
You didn't tell me you did anything. You just said you saw fluid and you put something in there to get fluid out. But he's at another hospital because you put it in there so tight that now they gotta go, it's bleeding. But there's a little thing out there called minimal brain dysfunction. The man worked on ships. Any of y'all Navy? Well, anyway, they make a lot of noise out there. And sometimes that thing could shake up a brain. Well, have you ever heard of a mother shaking a baby and they got shaken baby syndrome? Did you think that soldiers could have had some of that? But anyway, he was at civilian hospitals because one of the relatives of mine who died with something that was one of the cancers that was related to Agent Orange. I could never get him to go to the VA because when he went to the VA didn't treat him right. I had another relative who went to the VA. He was so weird to me. I don't think he liked me for a while because he and I went to Vietnam at the same time. My sister wrote to me and said, he got hurt. Can you send him back home? And I said, no, that wasn't my job. I couldn't do that. I mean, she didn't even have any clue that there was a lot of hospitals there. And Vietnam was not exactly like her street. It's a big place. It was relatively big. But anyway, he went to the VA and they told him he would talk about what his problem was. And they said, oh, you were messed up before you went over there. But once I talked to brother-in-law, it sounded like he was talking about some old crap. Whenever he got an ear, he talked about other stuff. He didn't talk about what he went through in Vietnam. But when I told my sister, I said, you know what, you take him over there to that hospital. Because I told him, I said, if another veteran, another person at the VA tell him that he was messed up before he went over there, I'm gonna stick him in the eye. So my sister loves some shoes and she loves some money. So when she went in there, she started talking, that was 10%, that was 10%. He come out with about 100%. But it was what it was, he had cut they had a hurricane in Birmingham and he had stepped on a nail or something like that, but he didn't want the wife to know that because he had about 10 televisions in his downstairs room. And he had remote control for all of them, and sometimes you would go in there and he'd have all of them running. He would come up on Friday night and they'd have a little get together, they call it date night. But my sister called it something else. But anyway, I didn't even know initially that his isolation had something to do with the fact that he had been in Vietnam. Then when I started telling my story, I would tell people this is what I did when I was there. I had to take care of 19 people that were freshly injured. Oh, you must not have done a good job. And I thought, some of that is what would push people back into the corners. Because when you're trying to talk, they ain't listening and they come up with their decisions about what's going on. And so I thought, but then when you start asking them, they can't really give you too much of where they got that information from. So I said, y'all, you know what? One of them commandments that I heard, thou should not have any other gods before me. Sounds like you've got a God called your opinion. And so it's like that's what they were dealing with. So what I'm saying here is not only do we have to deal with self, and I'll tell you about this self a little bit too. You got to deal with other veterans, because some of them are so angry with the system, they don't want to come out. Some of them are getting everything that they need, but they have no clue that people like me have paid to go to a VA hospital. And then when you run into some of the stuff that I gotta get back to tell you about with that one. The nurse, I would say, you know, one of the things that I was taught at first at Tuskegee, if you're living when you see them, they better be living when you let them go. Because where I went to school, I went to Tuskegee Institute. It's now called Tuskegee University. But that was more like the military than I had ever been into. In fact, when my relatives came to visit me, they thought, when it's college time for them, I ain't going there, that's like the prison. That's too much like the army. But it was like, okay, when my dean came in, everybody stood up, just like you do when you get a general come into the room. So we obeyed. And what they told us, when you come into this, when you got accepted into nursing, you put your feelings on the floor and step on them. And so that's the way I just kind of went with that, you know. Some people could be as insulted as ever, but I'm not gonna let you know that you insulted me. I kind of sunk that one back down. Because I got smile at you. And people, after when the people saw that, oh, that woman is evil as hell, she could be smiling at you and cutting you up at the same time. But Tuskegee did it to me. But then when you got to the military, they told us, if they're living, when they come here, they still better be living. And I could just reflect back at Tuskegee, if a woman come in here in labor, they better deliver that baby in the delivery room, because if you drop that baby out there in the hallway somewhere, you just missed out on your 10 deliveries and 10 certs that we had to get. So it was like you lost that one, so you were gonna do everything you could to get that woman back in there. So as I was reading some of the stuff that happens to Vietnam vets, you get an adrenaline rush. And after a while, it keeps you going. I had to keep going, because even when I came back, I was in the reserves. I went to the reserves because some of my civilian classmates were in the reserves, but nobody in the military told me that that's what I could do after I retired, or after I got out of the military. My time was up. So I'm thinking these civilians never been to the military, but they're collecting this money. So I joined the reserve unit in Colorado, where I got my master's degree. And then I came back to Chicago. And when I got in there, those old World War II and Korean veterans, they were sitting up there reading the retirement news. Now let's see who's gonna retire. And they would sit up in the bathroom on the reserve weekend, and they were doing stuff like that. And I'd come in, wait a minute, where are the patients? I wanna work, because I joined the 801st General Hospital in Chicago. And so I'm thinking, well, where are the patients? Well, it was that they were training people to take over a hospital if you ever got called up. And so they did, but I'm in there ready to work. And when I went over to Hines and the places like that, it's in the reserve, taking my little corpsman, I got 10 of them who had dodged the draft. Most of them were Jewish, and they could get out of it, but the black ones was the ones that were mostly in the patient's beds. And I thought, oh. So I kind of figured out, and I said, you know, I went through the same thing. But let me go back before I forget about this doctor who threw a patient out of the VA hospital. After he'd been to a bunch of civilian hospitals and got all kinds of wounds on him that I thought were absolutely preventable, they were all because of negligence. But anyway, the doctor wanted to send him to hospice. I said, well, what I know about hospice is you're supposed to be ready to be dying in no more than 6 months. The man lived 3 years later. But then when I sent the wife in there to talk to the doctor, to tell him about the military experience so they could figure out what was the root cause of his problem so that they could do something about it. The doctor had, and his name is Dr. Killer. I said, if you're still over there, I was ready to get rid of Dr. Killen from that place. But anyway, he's coming in there with his little medical students. And they all, well, we're gonna be here for the next 2 weeks. Or the next one is coming and he's gonna be there for 2 weeks. The one I saw, well, he's gonna leave in 1 week. I said, this VA hospital is just to be circulating these little medical students through here. But they don't have a clue. But the thing that upset me the most, he had nerves enough to tell the man's wife when she said something about his Navy experience. The doctor said he didn't know that he had been in the VA. I mean in the military. I thought, I was ready to do something to him. But anyway, when I went back over there, she says, okay, kind of, I says, no. I said, but first I want to tell the commander. I did write one of those, they got these little suggestion boxes or your complaints. I put it in there. You got doctors up in here who don't know that in order to become a veteran, you needed to have some military experience.
Whoa.
But then when I tried to find the director, his secretary is asking me all kinds of questions. But then when I asked her a question that she couldn't answer, oh, well, he's not here. In fact, the assistant is here. And then you can, I said, well, where is the other one? Because basically what I wanted to do, I was about to take him to Congress. Because some of the people who were working in the VA hospital had no clue that they're under Congress. Because when I told the doctor I was talking to this Dr. Killen and all his other people, I says, when you all see Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth coming through the door, they're not coming in here for any care. Who is Dr. Durbin? Who is Senator Durbin? Who is Tammy Duckworth?
Yeah.
Oh, y'all. And then when I go in and I push in my little walker and I'm trying to tell them how to take care of the patient, I said, some of the reason this patient got bed sores is because I see him laying on this plastic mattress. That's what caused the bed sore. And when y'all pulling that sheet, the friction, they can tell you everything that happened. Oh, we need you to teach up here. But I'm just gonna tell you this. I keep myself ready. I'm 81 years old, but I still got my nursing license. And I told somebody the reason that I have it is because if I tell somebody wrong, I end up going to jail myself. So I says, because whatever comes out of a nurse's mouth is supposed to be scientifically based. And if somebody go up there and some innocent person tell, well, the nurse told me to use this jelly for birth control, so she put some grape jelly into her body instead of using the contraceptive jelly. So now she's pregnant, she wants to sue the nurse. So they went back and looked through the nurse's record, and if you didn't document this is what you told the lady or what you told her, you were just as guilty as you had not spoken to her. So I said, well, I'm keeping my nursing license up, even though I haven't worked. I retired in 2009, but I worked up until 2017. And one of the reasons that I worked in 2017 was because I was running into so many veterans. And when I would go in, the family members would say, oh my God, he never talked to anybody that long. I said, we were just swapping up old war stories. Well, every time we come in here to talk to him, he won't tell us nothing about his experience. So I said, well, sometimes God allows things to happen. I said, some of that stuff that happened to me, I'm talking, but they're not listening. And I would tell the family members, I said, when y'all get there and they start talking, you change the subject just like my sister did, or the person, PhD psychologist when he went in. But when sister got up in there, she had learned that lesson. She wouldn't take anything off of me before. When I was trying to tell them, they coming up with all this research. Here, read this book. I haven't got time to read that book. But anyway, during that parade that we had that Lynn's telling you about, we didn't know it was that big. But I told brother-in-law, WGN's gonna carry this thing all over the country. So I'm gonna be in the parade. I won't see the parade. So can you video it for me? When I got to Birmingham, brother-in-law, he says, well, I erased everything except when I saw you, the reporters talking to you. I said, why'd you do that? Well, every time my sister showed up, well, every time I came down here, he'd be sitting up here crying. And he said, well, she said, if I'm gonna be crying, then throw the thing away. So he erased all the parade except when he saw me, because he knew I was coming into town. And so he saved that. But I was asked, I said, well, why'd you erase it? He said, because when I saw the 25th Infantry coming through there, I could just remember whenever we went out on patrol or whatever it was, they told us, pack up your mess, write your letters home to your mama, because some of y'all ain't coming back. And he says that out of that big unit that he was in, there was 3 of them left. But I couldn't relate to that when a lot of the patients were talking to me when I was in Vietnam, because I did not go over as a part of a unit. I was one of the 6 of the women on the plane with 200 and some men. And I had to be in my uniform, and I had to sit up straight, and I couldn't let it, I couldn't fall over on that other man's shoulder or anything like that. What people do when they fall asleep on a long journey. I couldn't do that. And I thought, okay. But I thought all that was just, I think because you build up this shield so that nobody is going to hurt you by their words, because words do hurt. And at that point in time, I didn't know the scripture in the Bible. There's life and death in the power of your words. And I thought, okay. I took my Bible though. When I went to Vietnam, I said, well, if you don't have nothing to do, then I can read it. So I started reading from Genesis and thought I was gonna get to Revelations. But by the time I got to them begats, I fell asleep. So it really didn't happen. So I didn't get to the one to talk about the power of the words. But I know I was feeling the power of the words. And I'm just gonna tell you guys, and before I leave out of here, y'all might say the same thing. I've had 2 sets of people to tell me that I had PTSD. And I've had a lot of people tell me that if you go in there and apply for it, you're gonna be 100%. Well, I'm seeing all these people who do come out of there with 100%, but they don't have it. Well, I said, well, I went over there once. I came out with 10%, and that 10% was because Jesse Brown VA did a little arthroscopic surgery on one of my knees when I fell in 2001 after donating blood. And so I got that. But the little PhD psychologist sat there and cried while I was telling her about the Vietnam stuff, but none of it came back over there. So part of what I say to veterans sometimes is, people do better when they know better.
Yes.
And so I says, back then they did not know better, because if Lynn remembers, the thing that they now call PTSD, that they even assign it to children who've seen somebody shot, they just said we were messed up. Or if they gave us a diagnosis, it was shell shock or battle fatigue. I still have to hush up people who are now getting it. They want to say that I coined the term post-traumatic stress disorder. I did not. But I was a part of the people who were talking to every PhD and master's student who all of a sudden back in the late 70s, early 80s wanted you to tell them your story. And it's those stories that have been told, that's how they came up with the diagnosis PTSD. And PTSD was, now they want to take the D off of it and just call it post-traumatic syndrome. No, they want to take the S out. But anyway, they're still playing around with it. But that term had come through enough PhD and university settings that the diagnosis came out in '84, but it did not go into the medical diagnosis books until 1986. Okay, so there was a lot going on. When I went into the military, I tell you, I was poverty. They had everybody that wore uniform came to Tuskegee to tell the little nurses, this is something you can do when you, after you graduate from this school. And most of us were thinking, oh Lord, we can't even get measles because they'll kick us out of school because we had measles or something. And don't dare make a mistake because that's an F or whatever. So we really were holding our breath. And so we figured, hey, these people are telling us how we can get a job and not have to worry about it. And I was thinking, okay, because in Alabama, if you work, you had a bachelor's degree. Most of the white people had what they call a diploma. They had gone to a hospital school for 3 years, but black people could not go to those hospital schools. We had to end up at a university. And what the devil meant for evil, God will make it good. I have a bachelor's degree from Tuskegee. Well, I've gone on up to got PhD, but from Tuskegee I got a bachelor's degree. A bachelor's degree is higher than a diploma for a nurse. They've even gotten rid of those. But one of the things we knew, even if you got hired in Alabama at that time, you might still be working under one of those 3-year grads, and you got a 4 or 5 year bachelor's degree. So when the military came and talked to us about going into the military, we thought about that. Hey, at least we will have a job, because at that point, back in 1963, 64, the military, we'd had the Montford Point Marine Associations to go through, the Buffalo Soldiers, all these people, Tuskegee Airmen, they were all decided that they could not do what they needed to do. But when they allowed them to do what they could do, they outperformed everybody else. And so that was the whole thing. And then when a part of my education at Tuskegee, we ended up in Baltimore, because they sent from Alabama, nursing students would have to go off in your 3rd year, because the dean knew that you might get a little better education if you went up north. And so they sent all the students up north to get that education for 1 year. Then you go back to Tuskegee. And tell you about going back to Tuskegee. How many of you ever heard of the Tuskegee, the Tuskegee syphilis study?
Yes.
Well, that was on our campus. But then when I was